Hey, everybody. My name is Ross Cowman, Story Games Olympia. Oh, got a little banner thing. I'm going to turn that off really quickly. But yeah, thanks for joining. I am going to be doing, I've got a hot new download of Epyllion, which is a new game by Marissa Kelly that's currently on Kickstarter. And I'm just going to be reading through it and kind of sharing some thoughts. And if you want to join, you're totally welcome to come check it out with me. First, I'm going to turn off this annoying overlay. Off. Boom. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's just take a looky-loo over here. So I've downloaded the files. Let me share my screen with you so you guys can see that as well. That's the one I'm going to share. Boom. Okay, cool. So yeah, the first I downloaded. There's three files that come in the download, the preview download, which if you if you back for $1, you get access to these as well. And it's enough. It's supposed to be enough information that if you already know how to play Apocalypse World, you can play this game too. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of check this out a little bit here. So this is the first part, Epyllion Dragon Master sheet. So we've got the Dragon Master sheet, we've got the move sheet, and we've got the Epyllion playbooks. I'm just going to go ahead and check out the Dragon Master sheet first, because this kind of lays out the principles and the agendas and the DM moves. Yeah, what I like about one thing that I like, kind of about starting here is you sort of get a good idea about what the game is supposed to be about. And this gives me, if I'm running this game, I know what I'm supposed to be shooting for. And also like kind of examining it from like a game master perspective, or from like a designer perspective. I think it's really useful to just sort of have an idea of, so I can sort of look like and see like, okay, this is what the designer was going for. And then my question is going to be, when I'm, giving critique from a design perspective, are, do the moves, do the other little bits of this game, are they fulfilling these design goals? The kind of, the sort of design style that has what I'm being told that the game is about. So Epyllion Dragon Master sheet. So principles: fill Dragonia with danger, mystery, and wonder. Challenge what they think of as darkness. Engage the character in the politics of the world. Make the world too big for baby dragons. Present the houses as dynamic and evolving. Fill Dragonia with dragons, young and old. Address yourself to the dragons, not to the players. Make your move, but never speak its name. Challenge what they think of as darkness. Oh, there's a typo there, so that one's in there twice. Ask provocative questions and build on the answers. Make the other player characters' choices meaningful. Okay, well, let's just look at that a little bit. So hold on a second, I'm going to turn down this music a little bit. I'm listening to Stars of the Lid in the background. Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about those principles a little bit. The first thing I'm noticing, so fill Dragonia with danger, mystery, and wonder. What that's telling me is that when I'm seeing this game, that I should be like danger, mystery, and wonder. So, that this is sort of the, when I'm seeing Apocalypse World, it's really useful just to kind of have a little touch, like kind of like a little flavor touchstone like that, to give me an idea of what's this game about, what's this for. So danger, mystery, wonder. It should feel dangerous. We're baby dragons. Mystery, there's lots of things that are kind of going on that maybe we don't understand, and part of the game is going to be about figuring, creating mysteries and solving them and deciding what the answers are. And wonder, that's one thing I really love about fantasy in general, is I love just kind of talking about crazy landscapes and cultures, and this is a game about dragons that are growing up together. So yeah, and then challenge what they think of as darkness. I've kind of scanned through this a little bit, so I know that the darkness is kind of supposed to be the it's kind of like the stand-in for the psychic maelstrom in Apocalypse World. In this case, the darkness is something kind of this like evil force that's present in the world, and some characters are going to have like a connection to that, and there's some moves that interplay with that. But it's looking like it's telling you, this game's telling me that don't let the darkness become really static and stagnant. That it's important to show it manifesting in new ways. So that's good to know. Okay, then we have engage the characters in the politics of the world. I'll just kind of go back and forth between sharing my screen with you guys. I wonder if there's a way that I can share my screen and you can see me at the same time. I don't know if that's possible. So let's do, anyway, I'm going to go back to this a little bit. So make the world too big for baby dragons and engage. Okay, let's talk about engaging the character in the politics of the world. That's something that's really intriguing to me because I really like games that have like a political bent to them. And I know that one thing about Epyllion is that each dragon is going to belong to its own kind of house. There's these different groups of dragons, and that there's going to be some political interplay between them. So, and here it's saying that as a MC, I should be engaging the character in the politics. It's kind of putting it on the MC here a little bit, saying like, hey, remember there's this political stuff going on, and remember to make that interesting to people and to engage people in it. And personally, I think that can be a really challenging thing to do. When we're playing this game, and ostensibly, you also really want the story to be focusing on these players. And then, in order to really engage them with the politics, they're going to have to feel like they're somehow connected to these politics. They're going to have to feel that they're connected to these political structures. They're going to have to care about it. And so I'll be really interested to see, what kind of tools Epyllion offers to help me make that happen as an MC. Okay, make the world too big for baby dragons. So yeah, in this game, if you didn't know, you start off as a baby dragon, and then you are going to be growing older over time. So, I imagine this principle kind of shifts. So we're probably not baby dragons. Eventually, we're going to be like old dragons. But at the beginning, you really want, it seems like Marissa's telling us that they really want you to feel like you're just a little baby. And that the world should be really big and scary. So let's see. Then we have present the houses as dynamic and evolving. Fill Dragonia with dragons, young and old. So this is, again, I'm going to be interested to see what kind of tools do I have as the MC to create these houses and to kind of keep track of them and show them as dynamic and evolving. It's definitely one thing to tell someone to do that, and another to actually do it like in play. You've got a lot of things that you have to be paying attention to as a MC. Fill Dragonia with dragons. So this is telling me here the world's full of dragons. One thing I'm curious about, one question I have at this point is it just dragons? Are there other kinds of creatures? Are there humans? Am I the kind of dragon can I be the kind of dragon that goes around pillaging things and burning things and creating hordes? Or it seems like what I'm being told here so far is that in this Dragonia is about it's about a society of dragons where dragons are really, and dragon culture are really going to be the focus of this game. So address yourself to the dragons, not the players. This is really standard Apocalypse World stuff. This is just saying to be addressing trying to get people into character and trying to get them immersed by talking specifically to them as their characters. Let's see, make your move, but never speak its name. Okay, then we talked about challenge, but I think it was darkness already. Ask provocative questions and build on the answers. Make the player character's choices meaningful. This is all kind of standard. If you've played Apocalypse World before, those principles shouldn't seem too unusual to you. Okay, and then over here we have the agendas. So make Dragonia's history, culture, and landscape seem real. Push the clutch to grow and change, and play to find out what happens. I'm kind of interested in here. I just want to contrast it a little bit with what Apocalypse World tells us what to do. So I'm going to pull up Apocalypse World really quickly. Oh, let's see. There's some little. I'm just getting some little I'm getting little sounds. I'm not sure if that means someone's trying to chat with me. Let me pull up the chat window really quickly. No, maybe that's just somebody saying they like it. I don't really know. I haven't done this before. Okay. So I apologize if you're trying to chat with me. There's a chat window here, and maybe I can see things. Okay, cool. So I want to, oh, geez, I'm getting more stuff. I'm blowing up over here. Let's see what's going on. Someone trying to talk to me? Oh, yeah. Great. Marissa says, yes, just dragons in a dragon-centric world. Okay, cool. So now we know. Yeah, so feel to chat at me, and I will try to be reading those things as well. Okay, cool. So yeah, I want to pull up Apocalypse World. I just am kind of curious in contrasting what's going on over here with what's going on in Apocalypse World. So let me pull this up really quickly. Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm always really excited about when I'm looking at Apocalypse World hack, because it's such a powerful. I don't know. It kind of has almost this. The Apocalypse World structure has almost this kind of academic structure to it, where you are saying that, like, okay, here's what my game is about, and then, and this is how we're achieving those means. And not every Apocalypse World hack, those things don't always line up. One thing you'll notice if you look at all these, like sometimes people will say like, oh, this game is about this and this and this, but actually it's about, but you're telling me that the game's supposed to be about this, but I'm not really doing, I'm not really giving you the tools to be telling this kind of story that I'm telling you to be telling. So, okay, so here's Apocalypse World. Let's just scroll on down here to the part about agenda. I'm just kind of interested in comparing those two. Where's the MC stuff? That's way down here. Oh, a little further. Master of Ceremonies. Okay, yeah, so the agenda here in Apocalypse World are make Apocalypse World seem real, make the other player characters' lives not boring, and play to find out what happens. Interesting here, too, that, in Apocalypse World, Vincent chose to present the agenda first and then the principles second. I'm not sure if that was like a super, if there's a real like design decision to do one or the other. But the I'm just going to check this out really quickly. Okay, so just kind of looking back at Epyllion here. So yeah, again, to make Apocalypse World seem real, so we have kind of make Dragonia's history, culture, and landscapes seem real. Make the player characters' lives not boring. Push the clutch to grow and change. So I can see how this is telling us to really we have this clutch. You and the other players are kind of forming this posse of dragons, and it could be easy to sort of settle into stagnation, and this is saying this is how not to do that. Just make sure that people are being forced to grow and to change. And actually, for me, that's really useful. I like it when people say positive things as opposed to just don't do this. Like make our lives not boring, and then that invites the question, well, how do I do that? And this is saying, well, you play the clutch, push the clutch to grow and change. Yeah, and then down here we have the moves. This is kind of cool. It looks like they're divided into wilderness moves, culture moves, and darkness moves. That's kind of handy. That makes it. I could see that being useful to as an MC, having things divided up for you that way. So that way, help you get to the show. This sort of is showing us where the cool moves are for any specific point in the game. So wilderness moves, we have inflict wounds, put someone in a high stakes situation, reveal a new and fantastic creature. That's always fun. That's my favorite thing about fantasy, is talking about crazy things that live in that fantasy world. Awaken something better left sleeping. Take away one of their things. Obfuscate the way home. That's kind of interesting. So this is saying, when we're in the wilderness, I'm expecting that this is a place where we're going to be running into new creatures and, kind of you know, we're going out into the wilderness for some reason, ostensibly, and we're going to run into fantastic creatures. We're going to wake up stuff that we should have left sleeping. We're going to get into trouble, and we're going to want to get back home, but it's going to get kind of hard. So this is telling me also that there's really 3 modes of play. Just kind of thinking about this a little more. We have these wilderness moves, and we have these culture moves, which is, you know, it's looking like there's really these sort of 3 prongs that Marissa's saying are interesting. This is what's exciting about the game, where it's these adventures. We're going to be going off in the wilderness, and then we're going to be exploring the culture of our dragons and how our dragons interact with these other dragons, you know, with these other, you know, the sort of whole political interplay. And then you have the darkness, which is this sort of foreboding, you know, force that we're going to be struggling with. So yeah, culture moves: announce off-screen challenges and conflicts, pressure them with competing ideologies, turn their move back on them, reveal an unpleasant truth, ask them to complete a task, offer an opportunity with or without a cost. So I can see, this is cool. So I can see, you know, as an MC that one thing I'm really excited about in story games in general is having opportunities for characters to explore their own morality and to challenge their morality. And it seems like this whole the political conflict of this world is really focusing on these different ideologies, and then you can kind of use that to sort of pressure characters. Like you have this one faction that believes this one way, this other faction believes this other way, and then that gives us as players opportunities to define our characters by saying who we meet, you know, what side we're going to take. Yeah, and then asking them to complete a task. I can see how that would kind of like lead into the wilderness stuff. So there's a little bit of a cycle here between kind of being at home and having to deal with the politics of dragonkind and being off in the wilderness and exploring and getting in trouble. Yeah, and then we have darkness moves: corrupt them with a shadow point. I'm guessing that's a mechanic that we don't know about yet. Trade wounds, as established. Announce the coming darkness. Confront them with corruption. Reveal the darkness's hold on Dragonia, and demand a heroic sacrifice. Cool. Yeah, then we got our names list. So the Dragon Master sheet is 1 page. One thing that I really like about Apocalypse World is the sort of first session sheet. I'll pull this up for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so running an Apocalypse World game, one really, oh wait, you know what I should just do? I'll just drag, I can make this easier. I will drag all of these things, because I'm going to be going back and forth between Apocalypse World a little bit in this. So one thing that is really useful about, let's see, one thing that I really like about, or one thing that's important to me, one thing that I really need when I'm playing Apocalypse World and when I'm seeing in particular, is to take good notes. And that is just, I think that the Apocalypse World does a really great job of providing us with some tools for that. Okay, cool. All right, I did it. I just have to get to the right page. You know what? I know there's a better way to do this, and that doesn't involve lots of scrolling through this thing. Let's see, first session. It's in the first session section. Cool. Oh, went too far. All right, I'm gonna pull this up on the screen so you can check it out. Here we are, right here. Boom, share. Okay, so going back to the source material. And what I'm talking about specifically is this first session worksheet right here, and I really, if I don't have something like this in the game, I tend to make one just because I need something like this one, especially if I want to run like a tight 1 session version of Apocalypse World. This tool becomes really indispensable. So it's sideways, kind of, but basically, you know, you kind of have these different, you sort of have these different I'm just trying to think of, what would I be making to play Epyllion? I'm just knowing what little I know about it so far. Oh my goodness, really? So it looks like when I go off, I'm gonna have to find the page number again. Okay, let's see. Find first session. It's over here, page 90. Is this it? No, maybe page 46. Maybe page, okay, we're really close to it. Sorry, this will get a little smoother as time goes on. So I'm just thinking about like what kind of worksheet would I want for Epyllion, and just knowing what I know about it. So let's talk about the Apocalypse World one, and also like the worksheet that I use looks a little bit differently. Than this. But what I like about this is, you have this little circle in the center and you write down the names of the PCs and their playbook. That's always useful because I'm always forgetting who's who. You've got, and then you've got, ambition, hunger, thirst, ignorance, fear, decay, despair, envy. This is just all supporting the idea that in Apocalypse World, people are having a hard time. Everybody wants something. People are in this kind of desperate situation. And this is reminding you to it's really just nice having this kind of like a little one word thing to kind of focus a character's personality around. And it can really help you, help support me as an MC to make these characters, really to just keep my characters focused, keep them simple, and make it really obvious to people, what kind of person this is. It can really help it to stick out, really help that character to stick out in the player's mind. So in Epyllion, I could think maybe the faction names go here, maybe the different the different political groups, and that could be a really good way. I would probably do something like that because that would really help me to remember who's part of what. Like the political groups, and then also what that name represents. I'm assuming there's some kind of ideology which each political group represents. So I'm thinking that I really want something like that. And yeah, then so as I'm making NPCs, I'm putting them there. And also even as I'm making, characters that are not like non-dragons and NDCs, non-dragon characters, I'd probably want to be putting them on here as well, just to help me keep them focused. It seems like they should also be interacting with and challenging some of these ideologies as well. Yeah, and then you're kind of making little notes. So one thing that's and then over here we have the NPC or the player's resources, which is a really important thing in Apocalypse World. Like, we have access to water, we have access to this. This doesn't have any kind of way of tracking scarcity, which is also really important in Apocalypse World. What we don't have is just as important as what we do have. And at the beginning of the game, really deciding that you have there's a couple things that we have abundance of and something that we have scarcity of, kind of like in the Quiet Year, if you played that, can be really useful. And then the I wonder section, where you're just sort of writing down little things that you're wondering about. And when I'm playing Apocalypse World, I am what I'm doing at the beginning as I'm going through character creation. Every time somebody either talks about something they're interested in with their character, some question comes up, with like the relationship between a couple characters, I write that down. And some folks, I feel like, have a tendency to, when they're emceeing, to really just dive in and kind of start, just really go into this relationship and really trying to find it before we actually kind of get into the meat of play. But I think it's a good idea to just take good notes and let everybody kind of spend a couple minutes introducing their character and asking them a couple questions, and really restraining yourself a little bit before you get into the meat of actually running scenes. And then that way, it really helps to keep the world really feeling like everyone's had a chance to build the world equally, rather than if I spend 10 minutes right off the bat talking to one character and really emceeing with one character and really asking them lots of questions, then they're going to be building a whole bunch of things which aren't really necessarily taking other people's ideas into account. So I think it's good to, at the beginning, to really have a place where you're writing. I'm always just taking notes and writing down, like, under each character, just little questions that are associated with them. And then, when it's time for me to make a move, one thing I can always do is just look at that list and be like, okay, well, I'm going to frame a scene where we're going to find out, exactly where, where Drummer gets his rat burger meat from, or like whatever. But in this game, of course, there's no no rat burgers. It's gonna be dragon stuff. So so yeah, that's just a little thingy. Let's go ahead and go back to. Okay, I want to go back to. I'm gonna go back to Epyllion, which is somewhere here. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna screen share. I think I accidentally closed it, but it's all right. Don't worry. I've got it right here. Okay, boom. Open. All right. Screen share. Share. Oh, wait, I want to share this one. Okay, cool. So I'm done with the rant. That's what I think about the Dragon Master sheet. Looks cool. I'd like. You don't have to. I mean, I'll just, like I said, I'd make one if there wasn't one, but it would be useful to me to. That's one way you can make the game easier to MC is by having some kind of note-taking tool. Okay, great. Let's look at the basic moves. So basic move sheet. I'm just going to look. I'm going to start with the kind of head, with the sort of header. So we have stand up to an older dragon, convince a dragon to help you, act despite danger, survey an ancient or arcane area, study another dragon, mislead or trick, call upon the magic of the moons, help or hinder, and give in to the darkness. Okay, cool. So let's look at these one at a time. So just by looking at the moves, just the title of the moves, I mean, this is definitely giving me a good idea for what the game, the sorts of activities that are supported in the game. This is, and remember, a move, you can do other things that aren't moves, but the moves are the place where we lose control a little bit. The moves are the place where the game is going to step in and say, this is kind of how the world works. This is sort of like what's true. So like, you can stand up to an older dragon, but when you do, this is going to happen. So let's start there. So, interesting. So we're going to be talking to older dragons, and there's this move creates this move enforces hierarchy. This move enforces both between you and NPCs and also between players, and that's really exciting to me. I think that does a really good job of supporting, engaging the character in the politics of the world. Because what's politics? Politics is about how we negotiate power structures, and this is one way to do it: standing up to an older dragon. So roll plus courage on a hit. So a hit. 10 plus is a hit. If you didn't know that already, and there's a. This is just super nitpicky, but there's you probably want to stick with the same language throughout and the same formatting throughout. It just will make it a little easier to read. So here it says on a hit, here it says on a 10 plus. Probably just do on a 10 plus because that's what everybody else did, and it's really obvious. So on a hit, pick one from the list. You delight them. They give you a useful item or fancy gift. You impress them. They offer you a favor or a commendation. You intrigue them. They tell you something useful and interesting. Okay. And then on a 7 through 9, pick one from this list. You succumb to vanity, mark shadow. You embarrass a friend, return a friendship gem, and you overstep social bonds. You incur an obligation. So this is cool. I really can see how this would kind of come up in a game where, let's see, wait. Yeah, so I can see how this would be, give us some more useful things to talk about after standing up to older dragon. Just a couple thoughts that I have, and this is like, there's been some discussion on the G Plus lately. I don't know if you've been watching it, but just about moves, and I definitely specifically moves that have mechanical outcomes. as opposed to moves that are really pushing the story forward. So this move kind of has a little bit of both, which, I'm okay with, like, mechanical, and I guess I'll just explain that a little bit. So a move with mechanical outcome is something where you have a result here, like you embarrass a friend, return a friendship gem. So in like Monster Hearts, we have strings. Apocalypse World, some of the moves will tell you to take +1 forward, and it's okay. I think it's okay to have some of that in. Also, let me say what's the problem with those kinds of moves. So so we're telling the story together, and then something happens in the fiction where one of the players triggers a move, and I'm like, okay, well, now you have to roll to, like, stand up to an older dragon, for instance. And then so you roll, and let's say you come up with you embarrass a friend, return a friendship gem, or let's say you succumb to vanity, mark a shadow. Actually, these ones aren't purely mechanical. They do have, like, a narrative component to them, which I think is important, because if I just said something like, return a string, or like you each lose a string on each other, then what happens is you get this kind of like vacant look in the player's eye where they're really confused, and they're like, oh, okay. And like, if they're really used to Monster Hearts, they will, maybe they'll do it. And if they've got a cool idea for what that looks like, maybe they'll narrate, like, oh yeah, so and then I say to Bobby, you owe me now, Bobby, and Bobby just kind of like nods. You might be able to squeeze a little something to the narrative about, okay, what does losing a string mean? What does that look like in the fiction? But what happens is, if everybody's like really tired, like it's like the end of the session, or like maybe people haven't drunk enough coffee that day or whatever, then it's really easy to just kind of like glaze over it, and like you'll just sort of mark the string. And the move hasn't really helped us out a lot. It's it can and sometimes it can actually slow down play when something's just like purely mechanical, because it's sort of, we're having this big conversation, and then instead of increasing the energy of our conversation, it's kind of everyone's kind of having to be like, oh wait, what does this mechanic do in the game again? Do I want to do this, or do I want to do this? What does +1 forward mean? That happens all the time in Apocalypse World when you're playing with a new player. That you have to, this is okay, now I have to tell you what +1 forward means. So I guess just if you're out there designing Apocalypse World hacks, I would urge you to be mindful of the ratio of purely mechanical results in your moves. If you have too many, the game can start to it changes the feel of the game, and so I would just be aware of it. If you want to have the kind of game where it's going to be like a really high energy conversation, the way you do that is by having lots of really kind of narrative pushing results to your moves. If you want to have a kind of game where there's a lot of kind of number crunchy, kind of like a little bit of a board game, a little bit more of an old school kind of feel, have a lot of mechanical outcomes to your moves. So Apocalypse World has a mix. It's got both. So so cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about. Okay, let me go back to the move sheet here. My rant's over. Okay. Okay, so standing up to an older dragon. So on a hit, you delight them, you impress them. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about with this, one thing I love about the move from Apocalypse World, Go Aggro, is that it has the victim, the target of your move, do the picking. And I like that for a couple reasons. One is I think that it makes the I feel like it makes the that's kind of what happens in real life, is that you're doing this thing to somebody, but then they get to choose how they respond. And I think that could be really cool. I think that might make this a stronger move, is by having the target pick instead. So that's one thought. And then, but these are interesting. Like, so, and then what like hitting or missing is that, like, well, politically, like sort of like socially, you're kind of get to hem somebody in a little bit by being very courageous in standing up to this older dragon. But anyway, you delight them. You delight them. You impress them. You intrigue them. Yeah, I mean, I'm really I'm definitely really excited about pretending to be some old dragon and talking in some old dragon voice, be like, "Oh yes, young wind sparrow, that's very cute. You know, of course I'll give you the whatever magical crystals that you're looking for. Oh, of course you can go out to the forest of wolves. You know, but be sure to take this backpack. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the useful items or fancy gifts would be. You impress them, they offer you favor or accommodation, you intrigue them. They tell you something useful and interesting. The other reason to have this be a you pick is because, like, say, like you pick, you delight them. Now, whoever the target of your move is they give you a useful item or fancy gift. So we have this kind of like, I choose a thing, and then now you have to make up something here. And if I'm offered, if I'm off, like, it's always nice to let both people have choices. So like if I'm offered a choice, it's going to be easier for me to create something. If all of a sudden I have to think of, oh shoot, you know, my dragon is delighted by you, and I have to come up with a useful item or a fancy gift to give you. You know, I don't know, that might feel like a heavy lift. That's just an idea I have about that. I'm also, so a couple things I'm curious about. One is, what does, you know, I don't know, I haven't played it yet, so I'd like to see what this feels like in play. I have a suspicion that as an MC, it might be a little challenging for me sometimes to come up with these things that I'm supposed to be coming up with the useful item or the fancy gift, especially if the player is the one that's choosing which of these three things I have to give them. But, you know, maybe not. Okay, cool. And then 7 through 9. This doesn't feel like a partial hit to me. This feels like a miss. You know, I like the idea of succumbing to vanity. I like the idea. Oh, it says also pick one from the list. Okay, got it. So pick one from this list. On 7 through 9, you also have to take one of these. Okay, that makes sense. I missed that. So yeah, I don't. And this isn't a bad. I feel like this is a decent use of. This is a decent place to put mechanical outcomes, because they're tied to these fictional outcomes. So, you know, having a mechanical thing, but with you know, having this sort of fictional benefit with this kind of like mechanical cost that's incurred. You know, I can see that being fine. Okay, let me put the. You can follow along your PDFs at home. Oh, if you haven't already, let me just go ahead and link to the Kickstarter. So that way, if you want to, if you pledge $1, you can download your own copy of this game if you haven't already, and you should, because it's $1, you know. And if you donate a nominally larger amount, you get the full game too. So why the hell not? I want to talk about baby dragons. Do you want to? I assume it. You know, why wouldn't you want to do that? Okay, cool. So let's see. Okay, cool. So here is the linky link. I'm gonna put it right there. You guys can all see that, right? Okay, so back to these moves. So I know I've been talking a lot about some of the nitty gritty stuff about moves, but that's kind of just some of my basic ideas about what I like about moves and how I think moves operate. So maybe I can go through the rest of these a little quicker. Okay, standing up to a dragon, standing up to an older dragon. Well, let me see. Do I have anything else I want to say about the 7 through 9? You know, you succumb to vanity, mark a shadow, you embarrass a friend, return a friendship gem, you overstep social bonds, you incur an obligation. I'm assuming this is incurring an obligation. So interesting. This is not capitalized. These ones are like shadow, friendship gem. This is telling me that these are like game terms. Obligation seems like it's not a game term. At first I was really excited because I kind of wanted obligation to be like a game thing. But it looks like, you know, it looks like this is not a mechanical thing. Maybe it is. I could be wrong. Friendship gems, shadow. You might want to, this could be maybe a slightly different font or italicized or something like that. Doesn't have to be. Okay, let's go to this one. Oh, geez, I keep coming back. So one more thing is that standing up to an older dragon NPC, this is specifically, it looks like this can only be used on NPCs. I would love it if this move worked on PCs too. I feel the same way about Monster Hearts. I kind of feel the same way about Apocalypse World. I'd love it if those moves were just tweaked a little bit so you can use them on PCs, because I think it's cool to, I think that would really help it to matter which of us is older, like our birth order, which is, you know, we're in a clutch, we're all siblings, knowing which of us hatched first. It seems like that's one of the themes. That's one of the themes of the game, and so you know, if it's possible to fit all that in, you know, why not? Okay, let me make sure. I think if I do this, can people see? No, I'm sharing the wrong screen. All right, that's the Kickstarter screen. You should go over there and back it. You know, I just have too many windows open as part of my problem. Here, I'm gonna close a bunch of windows, and then I won't get lost so much. Boom. And let's see, I close that one too. Okay, cool. Great. So checking out some basic moves again. I've been talking for 40 minutes on just the basic moves. Okay, and there's back to the move sheet. Okay, so let's see, convincing a dragon to help you. When you convince a dragon your age or younger to help you, roll plus charm. On a hit, they will do it if you offer them a favor, gift, or useful information. On the 7 through 9, they don't get it quite right, or they don't tell you everything you need to know. I like that soft hit a lot. For NPCs. For PCs on a 10 plus. Okay, yeah. So this is the marking experience or marking shadow. So this is really similar to the Apocalypse World template. And one thing I feel like the Apocalypse World template for this move is a little on the weak side, just because, you know, it's the carrot or the stick thing. You mark experience. If they don't do it, they mark shadow. It's okay, but man, it's not as exciting as, like, you know, I'll do it if you offer me something, or on a 7 through 9, you know, I just kind of misunderstand it a little bit. I'm curious, does this need to be broken out between, does this need to be a different move for NPCs and PCs? That's a question I have with Apocalypse World in general. Let's see, the move title tells me, I guess this confuses me a little bit, because it says when I convince a dragon, but if I've already convinced them, you know, it's like when I try it, but you don't really want to say when you try to convince a dragon to help you. Yeah, that's a little tricky. Also interesting, this does not work on not dragons. So, you know, we have 3 moves here now, like stand up to an older dragon, convince a dragon to help you, study another dragon. This is really telling me that the fun of the game is interacting with other dragons, and non-dragons you can't interact with them in the same way. What can I do with non-dragons? I can mislead or trick only works on dragons. Yeah, so one thing I'm a little confused about, or I guess I don't know how this would come up in play, but if we're in the wilderness and I'm supposed to be revealing new and fantastic creatures, the game isn't really providing me a lot of tools to interact with those creatures. I have a lot of tools to interact with dragons, so I have like a lot of stuff to do over here with the culture moves. But the basic moves do not allow me to do that. So one question I have right now is how does this game want players to interact with fantastic creatures that we meet in the wilderness, or, you know, things that we awaken that are better left sleeping? Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, acting despite danger. This is kind of the act under fire. Looks like it's templated in that sense. Yeah, 10 plus, you succeed despite the odds. 7 through 9, you fumble, stumble, or embarrass yourself. The DM will offer you a worse outcome, a hard bargain, or an ugly choice. The 7 through 9 on Act Under Fire, if you've MC'd a lot of Apocalypse World, you know that that move is, whenever you get the 7 through 9, it can always be kind of a heavy lift. This game doesn't solve that problem, but it's like it works. It works. Like you can definitely, you need to have something in there. You need to have some kind of catch-all move to use when players are doing something and you feel like, oh, maybe there should be some sort of uncertainty to the outcome here. Yeah, just this is not a critique of Epyllion. This is a critique of the Apocalypse World systems in general. Okay, cool. So back to the moves. Oh, okay, there it is. Survey an ancient or arcane area. When you spend a moment to survey an ancient or arcane area, roll plus cunning. On a 10 plus act 2, on a 7 through 9 ask 1. What resource does this place offer? How do I gain access to this place's secrets? What here harbors darkness? Who else knows of this place? Are we alone? This is great. Yeah, this is, you know, templated off of you know, off of the Apocalypse World move, which is the you know, like read a person or read a sitch. So what resources does this place offer? How can I gain access to this place's secrets? What here harbors darkness? Who else knows of this place? Are we alone? Yeah, I mean, these all sound like fun questions. I'd be excited about that. You know, other things that kind of come to mind are like, who's been here before? What here harbors darkness? How can I gain access to this place's secrets? Yeah, so I am, one thing I'm curious is, one thing I'm feeling like I might want a little support of when I'm seeing Epyllion is creating new and fantastic creatures and coming up with really awesome fantastical places that have secrets, you know, that are tainted by darkness. And you know, I can see like one thing that would be kind of cool about this move can be sort of a powerful support for that, where, you know, I guess there's a few different places that you can do that. One is that this, you know, you can do just this, where the player's asking you some questions, and now as the MC, I have to make these things up. You know, in one thing that happens in Apocalypse World is that the creation of ancient area, you know, the creation of interesting NPCs and the creation of other cultures and other places is baked into the playbooks a little bit. So like when you choose to be a hard holder, you're creating a gang, which you're creating this this location where we all live. You know, when you're creating a operators have all these gigs. There's all these different groups of people. You know, they're shipping water back and forth, and they're smuggling things. All that stuff is going to create setting. And so one kind of sometimes overlooked aspect of Apocalypse World is that a lot of the setting creation is baked into the playbooks. And so yeah, anyway, we haven't gotten to the playbooks yet, but I'll be interested to see, you know, what other, in addition to this move, what other kind of support do we have as a group of players for creating ancient and arcane areas, because this seems to be an important thing. One thing that's kind of interesting is that over here, you know, we have kind of wilderness, culture, and darkness. And there's, you know, I'm just seeing that there's, you know, we kind of have these three core, like, it might be kind of interesting to sort of tie together some of these keywords here. Like we sort of have, you know, our clutch, there's sort of clutch in politics, which is sort of the realm of like politics, is where we have our clutch in these different cultures, and there's sort of certain ways that we interact with dragons, and there's ways that we interact with the rest of the world, kind of like the wilderness, and then we're interacting with the darkness. that seems like a really strong theme in this game, and it could be really interesting to see that mirrored in other places. Like if these moves were divided up also similarly into wilderness, culture, and darkness, that would sort of help me as a player to be like, oh, I'm in the wilderness. Oh, well, these are the things that I'm really supposed to do in the wilderness. Because like you're as written, we're not going to be while we're in the wilderness, we're not going to be standing up to older dragons or studying other dragons so much, or misleading or tricking, so much in the wilderness. Seems like we're going to be doing less of that, and more of like this is kind of the wilderness move. This is just I might be wrong about this, but this is just my interpretation right now. Okay. So yeah, study another dragon. You study another dragon, roll plus charm. What is your character hoarding? What are you holding a grudge against? What could I learn from you? What does your character wish I'd do? How could I get your character to fill in the blank? This is interesting. Yeah, so this is, analogous to read a person. Yeah, I mean, I love, these are solid. These all look like really solid, great questions to ask. I wonder if this is the best title for this. People that aren't really accustomed to Apocalypse World might not realize that this is a great move to use when you and another character are kind of getting into it. Something that happens a lot in role-playing games is people will get into these kind of like debates where like, oh, I want this thing to happen, and the other person's like, oh, I want this other cool thing to happen, and we're just butting heads a whole bunch. So it could be cool to and so like a move like study another dragon here or read a person in Apocalypse World is great tool for getting out of that log jam, because then you can just ask like, oh, how do I get your character to do this thing? And instead of just us trying to, it invites you to share this other person, to like think about this other person's idea and be like, okay, well, wait, how can I say yes to your idea? What would make that seem exciting to me? So anyway, yeah, I like this. This is a good move. I just wonder if that's the best title for it. I get a little confused because sometimes I think that like I'm going to be trying to convince a dragon I want to be convincing a dragon to help me, but what I actually want to be doing, what's going to help me do that in the game is actually studying them in general. So there's a little bit of confusion to me. I feel like I'd like it if the triggers for these moves were maybe defined a little differently. Or maybe we don't need this one. Maybe we don't need convince the dragon to help you, and I just want to be studying another dragon all the time. Mislead or trick another dragon. So you learn a secret. So on a hit, they're fooled for a moment. 10 plus tick 2, pick 2. Oh, I see. So a hit is referring to both a 10 plus and a 7 through 9. So now I get the nomenclature. So we have kind of hard hits and soft hits. Okay. Oh, another little note here. This is a game term, a hit. Over here we have some game terms that are not hits, that are not capitalized. Maybe I would understand a little better that this was a game term if it was capitalized and italicized or bold or something. Just one little thought. So on 10 plus pick 2, 7 through 9 pick 1. You learn a valuable secret. You create an opportunity. You confuse them for some time. Yeah, so there's another template that I think is sometimes I might be a little more excited to see in this position, and it's it's the whole like, do you do it well? Do you do it quickly? Do you do, this is kind of like how it's sort of related to that idea of work where, when you do a job, it's either done fast, it's done well, or it's done cheaply. So that can be kind of a useful thing here, like for the trick, like, do you trick them for a long time? Do you trick them really thoroughly, or does the trick come at some expense? So that might be, and the reason I say that is because when this move is triggered, there's like really something specific that I want out of it. It's like I'm trying to trick you or mislead you. I'm trying to fool you. I'm trying to manipulate you, and I already I feel like when I trigger this move, if I'm the dragon, I have like a really specific idea of the result that I want. So I don't necessarily, and then like getting what I want and I fool you. But now I have to like I have to make up once somebody here is going to have to make up a valuable secret or an opportunity, or confusing them for some time. It looks like this is saying that this is kind of like what I'm talking about, like, the trick is long lasting, that this might, we might stumble on this a little bit in my play groups. It might sometimes, it might be really hard for me to figure out what to be saying next. Oh, and also, like, this could be another good opportunity for letting the victim choose. I love it when there's that can be a really great thing to do. That can be a way to involve other players in your. That can be a way to attack other people's players in a way where you're not also stealing narrative authority away from them in a way that feels bad, is to give them an option, like a list of things that they can choose, and make sure that there's that all those options are really exciting. So so for both mislead or trick and stand up to an older dragon, I would have those be you chooses. I would let the victims choose those ones. But yeah, as written, I also think this is fine. I'm sure this would work too. Okay, then call upon the magic of the moons. Roll plus gems returned. Okay, cool. So gems are, we can lose gems when we stand up to an older dragon. So far, I don't know how to get gems. I'm sure we'll figure that out. And wow, roll plus gems returned. So like, I could stock up a bunch of gems and do something crazy. 10 plus, pick 2. 7th round, pick 1. The magic is powerful. The magic remains within your control. The magic impresses or frightens others. On a miss, they act as they will without your guidance. This is great. I love this stuff. Yeah, I like just really wide open moves where you get to make up. This seems like a really cool way for Magic to be operating. It's interesting that Magic is gems powered. I'm assuming that all gems are friendship gems. It might be good to, if they're friendship gems, just call them friendship gems all the time, or I would like these to either be called friendship gems or gems consistently throughout the text. Help or hinder. When you help or hinder a clutch mate after they have rolled plus gems. Oh, when you help or hinder a clutch mate after they've roll plus gems. Okay, got it. So it looks like we're not returning gems. Here we're actually spending gems. Here we just kind of keep track of how many gems we have with each character. Yeah, and then this is just the typical standard Apocalypse world, help or hinder. So gems are operating a little similarly to HX. Looks yeah, and this is like pretty purely mechanical. Traditionally in Apocalypse World games, you get to choose if you want to do this after the roll has occurred. So I'm not sure if that's the intent of this game or not. I would assume that you can choose wherever if I'm not told otherwise. You cannot help or hinder clutch mates while they're calling upon the moons. Okay, that's interesting. So that's the thing. Give into the darkness. Uh-oh. When you give into the darkness, mark a shadow and roll plus shadows marked. Oh, plus total shadows marked, it sounds like. 10 plus, you harness the darkness, casting shadow magic. 7 through 9, you harness the same magic, but it's powerful, almost too powerful. On a miss, the darkness chooses how the magic manifests without your guidance. So both these, so we have a couple magic of the moon and magic of the darkness. We have a couple magic things. I'm kind of curious what that magic looks like. What can I do with magic? Can it be anything? Can I use magic to generate friendship crystals? I mean, I'm assuming it's not the case. But I feel like I'm a little concerned that this might be crossing the line between being evocative and then just being like, being vague. Like I might want a little more guidance. Like it might be really nice to have like a little list that I can choose from where I sort of have an idea of, when I give into the darkness. This isn't quite, it's also not quite giving into the dark. Well, it seems like when I'm harnessing the darkness. I'm not giving into it. I'm harnessing the darkness. I really like this terminology here because this is a little confusing to me as it might come up in play. you know, and it also might be nice to have, it looks like there's a little bit of a analogy here between friendship gems, the magic of the moons, and the magic of the darkness. It might be nice if these two moves mirrored each other in a mechanical way where you could really see the relationship between the two, if that's the intent of the game, which I'm not sure if it is. Okay, cool. So just in review, so just kind of went over the basic moves, and they look cool. You know, it definitely looks like we have all the tools that we need here to tell the kind of story that is being outlined in the principles. Okay, let's take a look at these peripheral moves here. Peripheral move sheet: friendship gems. Give gems to other players when their characters display a virtue you hold, regardless of the distance between characters. Gems can be returned to activate moon magic or other abilities. When a move calls for you to return a gem, give the gem back to the dragon who gave it to you. When we roll plus gems, count up the number of gems with the character in question and add that to your roll. Do not return those gems. Okay, let's see here. Give gems to other players. Okay, so at any point in the game, it looks like this is characters interacting with each other. You can give players a gem when they display a virtue you hold. So this is kind of you just did something that I like. Here's a gem. I would love it if there was a fictional trigger for this, like if this move had a title that kind of matched up with these ones, like when you tighten your bonds with somebody, or when you connect with somebody, or when someone sort of, I'm not quite sure exactly what that would be. You know, in one way, it's like, I think it's fine to just have this really purely mechanical thing that, you know, I can just kind of silently pass the gem over to you. And, you know, maybe in play that would be, I could see that as being like a really nice thing to do without, without interrupting the flow of the game. And I also might want, it might be nice to have there be a little narrative thing that happens, like, you know, Brimstone snorts approvingly, you know, like when, and as I pass you the gem. So like when I show respect to somebody, or when I when I display my friendship to somebody, just have there be like a little fictional thing. Yeah, maybe not. Like I said earlier, you know, it's kind of a balance with the mechanics and the sort of mechanical things and the fictional things. You just want to make sure, and that's something that you really have to play the game to see if the balance is feeling right. Sometimes you might be playing a game and it's just feeling super mechanical, and people are checking their phones and people are not really paying attention to each other. That's when you've gone too far with the mechanics. And then when it's too fiction-y and there's not enough mechanics, then it just gets kind of like a little floaty, and there's not really enough. There's not really enough the mechanics can kind of ground things and help us to keep the story from feeling like it's too controlled and too open to our whims. Okay, wounds. Start with 2 wounds. As you get older, your wound threshold increases by 1. When you get 5, you become a bearded dragon. When you fill up all your wounds, you die and fly through the valley of death. Okay, we have this kind of dying move. So it looks like this is using numerical wounds. Let me just look at a character sheet really quickly to see if that's the case. Yeah, I've been really stoked. I really like the kind of more narrative wounds that you see in Apocalypse World Dark Age, where as you sort of cross off these things that are true about your character, like you'll live to old dragon age, or you know, or like having there be the possibility for social harm too, like you cross off, or like marks in Night Witches, where there's these things that you're crossing off your character sheet that are that are sort of adding little fictional details to your character, and you have like kind of a variety of them. You can kind of cross off whichever one that you want. Numerical wounds are fine. They work. It's what's in an Apocalypse World. But I feel like the kind of choice. I feel like the in my brain, the state of the art with wound sort of stuff is Apocalypse World Dark Age and marks in Night Witches, and then also Robert Bruce and Ryan Canning have this hack called Disney World, where you cross off these things which are like you're all employees at Disney World, and the things that you're crossing off are these things that are true about your character. Like you have a stable job, you're eligible for, so you might cross that out. You might, or like you're eligible for, you're on the fast track to getting a raise or getting a promotion. And so like you sort of suffer the social wound and then you cross it off. And now you're no longer on the fast track to that. And then down at the bottom, it's like your friends still return your phone calls, and you cross that off. And then finally it's like you're allowed on Disney on Disney property, and then you cross it out. It kind of takes you down from being like this really high status, like, oh yeah, I'm like working at Disneyland and I have this great job and I feel really great about it, to like, at the bottom, like, I'm not even allowed on Disneyland's property anymore. So yeah, and it takes up about the same space on the character sheet, and it gives us something really interesting to talk about when we take a wound. And it can also gives us something interesting to talk about when we heal too. So, but yeah, this works too. Valley of Death. Death and sacrifice are uncomfortable realities in wartime. When you fly through the Valley of Death, come back changed. Oh, interesting. Roll plus gems. Oh, that's cool. So it looks like there's this kind of reincarnation mechanic here. Like your character doesn't actually die, which is neat. What if I want my character to die? What if I want my character to die and I want to make a new character? That's one question I have. But this is cool too. And I think like a lot of times, like if you're playing a game where this allows the MC to really just be able to, it's nice having, this seems cool. This is going to have like a real particular kind of feel in the game. It'd be interesting to see how this feels. It's like if you have enough gems when you die, you just come back, and you're losing your gems, you respawn. Oh, and scars, when you get a scar. Oh, that's cool. So this is a little bit, oh, that's cool. So you just kind of get to write down some cool thing that's happened to your character here. Magic moons. Oh, okay. The moon modifier, it's all moon rolls they make. So it looks like the moon magic is kind of defined here a little bit. Maybe that it sounds like this is what's going to tie into the whole moon magic thing. Cool. It looks awesome. I like the art, by the way. I have one thing, I don't know if you've been looking at the Kickstarter, but there's some really cool artwork. Let's see, when you reach the end of a session or chapter, look at your house obligations. If you filled that obligation at least once, erase one shadow. And go around the table and answer these questions. Did you learn a lesson from a friend? Did you help a friend solve a problem? And you get XP for every one of these things. Okay, cool. Yeah, that seems solid. So this game is kind of giving you some mechanical support for working with your friends and fighting against the darkness and fulfilling house obligations. Okay, here's obligation again. I'm seeing it for a second time. It's also not capitalized, which is telling me that it is. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what obligations are yet. It might be. It sounds like it's a mechanical thing. It's really sounding like it's a mechanical thing now, but I'm not quite sure. So I'm seeing on the character sheets there's references here to the different houses. Take a shadow point while engaging the darkness. Use your maybe this is an obligation. Maybe. Seems like each house has a little special move. Okay. So yeah. Okay, great. So I've gone over the so it's getting. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. If anybody has any questions about anything that I've said, feel free to. I don't know if you can write it in the chat. I'm not sure. I'm new to this whole Google Hangout thing. But if you have, feel free to message me on Google Plus if you guys want to talk some more about it. I will see. Yeah, maybe I'll take a little bit of a look at these playbooks, maybe tomorrow or the next day. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this inspires you to go out and try Epyllion for yourself. You can download it for just $1. You can download all this information I've been going through. It looks fun. I'm excited to try it out, and I'm excited to see all the further developments that are happening through the Kickstarter. So, okay, cool. Hope you're doing well, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. Bye.